Majida Al-Omar is the victim of a war she doesn't even understand. She lost her right leg during an airstrike in East Aleppo. The memories still haunt the 10-year-old to this day. With the aid of a prosthetic leg and lots of practice, Majida learned to walk again. The family has since moved to Gaziantep in southeast Turkey near the Syrian border. Daily life with a prosthetic leg is difficult, but Majida doesn't give up.
Majida Al-Omar. Majida Al-Omar.
Majida's days start very early. And they are exhausting.
Some children, when they wake up, they just jump out of their beds, wash their faces, get dressed, take their bags and go. I need an hour to properly put on my leg, and if it doesn't work, I need to ask my mom for help.
Today, she did it alone. In the kitchen, Majida prepares breakfast. She enjoys helping around the house. The family of 7 lives in a small apartment, but only Majida's mother Zaliya and her little brother Ibrahim are there now. Majida's father is already at work and her other siblings aren't at home.
Would you like some more bread?
In 2013, the family fled Syria for Turkey. Majida was 5 years old at the time and her brother Ibrahim only 2. She still remembers the escape from Aleppo very clearly, the day of the attack by government troops, even though she wishes she couldn't.
Life in Syria was beautiful before the war. We were a big family all together. There was a tree in front of our house that I used to climb on. I miss that tree so much.
When our neighborhood in Aleppo was heavily bombed, my son had panic attacks. We took him to the hospital and stayed there for 5 days. But even in the hospital, we were hearing the sound of shooting outside. So we decided to go north, where it was more peaceful.
We were in a pickup truck with 10 other people when it happened. Just after we got on the truck, a plane fired on us. Suddenly everything was burning, and everything was black around us.
When I regained consciousness, I saw my daughter and her leg was gone. My son was on fire, and he had open wounds on both of his legs. There were dead bodies and burned people everywhere. These images still haunt me. It was like hell had opened up.
When we left the hospital, there were many covered dead bodies outside. One body was uncovered. My sister closed her eyes and she didn't see it, but I saw that body and I wish I hadn't looked, because I cannot forget it.
Majida and Ibrahim go to a state-sponsored Turkish school. Today they're only attending class for a few hours, because later Majida has a checkup for her prosthetic leg in the clinic. Ibrahim wants to come along. He doesn't stray from his sister's side unless he absolutely has to. We aren't allowed to film in the school. The neighborhood where Majida's family lives has changed drastically in the past years. Gaziantep was once famous for its traders and markets, but now it's known for its refugees. Gaziantep has taken in 500,000 Syrians. They reside here in the city center or in camps elsewhere, but living together is not as harmonious as it looks at first glance.
When they realize that I'm Syrian, they charge me more. They doubled my rent from 200 to 400 lira, and I even have to pay more for water and electricity than my neighbors do, because I supposedly use more.
We want them to go back now. We've been feeding them for 5-6 years. That's enough.
There were a lot of problems in the beginning, but now everything is fine. The majority of Syrians have integrated, they've even boosted the economy.
Over 3 million refugees live in Turkey, more than in any other country. After 7 years of the Syrian war, it's no longer a matter of emergency aid, but of integration. Many of the refugees might not return to their homelands.
Looks good, and it's healed well. Does that hurt?
Yes, here a little.
In the meantime, Majida is at the clinic. The checkup on her leg is uncomfortable for her. Fortunately, she doesn't have to come as often as she did in the beginning, when her prosthetic leg was still new to her. The scar on her leg doesn't bother her anymore, and that's very important. She has more fun exercising. Her physiotherapist, Anas Al-Sofi, is also Syrian. Majida has made such progress that her prosthetic leg is hardly noticeable.
Slowly, slowly.
Only climbing stairs still proves difficult for the 10-year-old. For Anas, it's important that she keeps her head up. She shouldn't think of her leg at all.
We want our patients to feel comfortable with the prosthesis, so they can do everything in their daily lives without limitations. That includes walking on different types of floors and surfaces such as sand and gravel, as well as steep slopes and stairs. We train all of that. Majida is brave, and she has a strong will. That's why she learned so quickly and made such great progress.
I'm happy that I have this leg now. At first I wanted to even leave it on at night, but my mom wouldn't let me do that.
The clinic has its own prosthesis factory. It takes from 1 to 2 days for the team to manufacture an artificial limb. The base pieces, such as the foot and ankle, were shipped from a German company. Here, the prosthetic pieces are then put together and adjusted. Around 15 patients get new limbs here each month, and they're free. The clinic is funded via donations. Majida has another appointment, this time with a psychologist, but she isn't there yet. That gives Majida a little time for her favorite game, jump rope.
You go over there.
Her physiotherapist Anas can barely catch his breath.
Turn around.
أهلين ماجدة، كيفك؟ شو أخبارك؟ شلونك؟ منيحة أنتِ؟ الحمد لله. أهلا وسهلا. إبراهيم، كيفك؟
Wala Hamza's job is perhaps even more difficult than the physiotherapist's. She's a psychologist, and the wounds she treats can't be seen. Majida and Ibrahim have been her patients for years. Sometimes they paint together, or they knit, like today. Wala, who's also from Syria, tries to find out how the children are doing and how the war changed them.
Sometimes the children would get aggressive and angry, and many have terrible nightmares about the memories of what they've been through. Sometimes the trauma is recognizable in how they play, like when they reenact scenes from the war. I wish the war would end so we could care for this generation of children. But as long as the war keeps going, more and more children will be traumatized and injured every day.
Majida and Ibrahim's checkups today went well. On the way back home, it's time for a round on the playground. Majida loves it here, but many of the other children avoid her, she says, because of her prosthetic leg.
When the other kids at school didn't know about my situation, they were nice. But when they learned about my leg, they treated me differently. They wouldn't play with me anymore. That's why I prefer it when no one at school knows about my leg. Grown-ups have also reacted strangely. My teacher, for example, acted normally at first. Since she's seen my prosthetic leg, she's treated me extra carefully. When I forgot that the leg is there, she reminded me.
It's been a long day, not only for Majida and Ibrahim, but also for their father, who worked the entire day as a tailor. They see each other briefly at dinner.
How did it go today?
I'm nervous about a test.
Now it's time for the children to go to bed. Majida puts her prosthetic leg away for the night. And Ibrahim crawls into her bed. He loves it when his sister reads him a story as he falls asleep. It's about a boy named Tariq, a 6-year-old superhero from Aleppo. But it could just as well be about Majida.